What's good, YouTube? It's your girl Jess. I'm back, and I guess the world is ending. This is it, y'all. I don't even know where to start when it comes to what's going on in the world, my love life. Everything in my life is just fucking going down the drain. Am I stepping in it? I just stepped in dog shit. Things are going really fucking well for me, guys. So we're here to distract from that and talk about a subject that I felt I wanted to talk about for so long. Being invisibly biracial is something that I feel like a lot of people experience in this world, and I feel like nobody really talks about it. And in no way am I kind of making this in a way that's going to be problematic. It's more just me explaining my experience. First, I'm going to tell you about my history. My history is my mother's side is Japanese. They're fresh off the boat. My mom came here when she was 9, as well as my aunt and uncle. They all came with my grandmother, who is full-blown Japanese. My grandfather died early on in my age, so I never really met him. When he passed, my grandmother's kept a house in Iowa, and she's just been there ever since. So all I know is going from Jersey to Iowa back and forth every summer for like 10 summers in a row. And I would just be in this house and I would play the VCR and I would just watch Spirited Away on repeat with my sister. And that was our summers every year. And my mom made it a really, really big, important part for us to just learn Japanese culture. And she loves where she's from. She loves the culture. She loves the food. She loves her family. So she really did a good job in incorporating that into our lives in a way that felt really good. It felt very organic and felt very natural to us. Then my dad's side is Italian. I know my great grandmother came here straight from Italy. My dad grew up in a very kind of aggressive Italian household, so it was a lot of that. And he carries a lot of the, the food elements from Italy and stuff into our family. So we know really good meatballs, we know really good pasta. So you get the two elements all the time. My mom will sometimes make Japanese dishes. She gets excited when she can do that. But I have noticed American life get to both of them and, kind of adjust to it. And I feel like that happens to a lot of that generation when they come here and just accustoming themselves to natural American culture, I guess, whatever the fuck that means. But when I came out of my mom's womb, I happen to look a lot more like my dad. My skin tone, my face, my features, all of it. It came out that way. But my sister, she came out looking hella Asian, mixed or something. You look at her and you're like, oh, you gotta be something, right? She gets darker than I do in the summer, but we come from the same damn parents. So you can imagine what that's kind of like growing up, knowing that, like, especially if this is our fucking baby picture, like, how does that work? So I was always known as the white girl. I was the white girl in the Asian group in high school. I always associated myself with people that were of color, so I was always involved in different groups throughout high school, sports, theater, all types of clubs, and I was just always involved with different people all the time. I'm just used to that. That's my life, and I feel like that's a part of my identity as well, as knowing that, like, I associate with people that are mixed as well. Like, people with culture just come naturally into my life. That to me has always just felt natural. But when it comes to that, people look at you like, oh, you're the white girl of the group, and it's just like, yeah, that's me, but I never get acknowledged for the other side of me, which I associate the most with. It's a very weird game to play in public, in your head, in your life. And I think the way that it happened in my life, it really delayed my growth in general. Aside from my sexuality, I think identifying with the fact that I am biracial just took me so long, like literally up till maybe this year, like 25, 26, where after I visited Japan, after I learned more about biracial identity, after I learned about the fact that I am Japanese, like I really had to keep saying that to myself to like actually believe it, because growing up, so many people wanted to treat you like the white girl based on your look. So don't get me wrong, I'm beyond understanding of the fact that I'm white in passing and I have that privilege, but as well as knowing that there's also a side of me that not only doesn't really associate with it, but it's just something that has been so problematic, and knowing that I have to state that, just like my sexuality sometimes, it's just something that has to be verbalized sometimes in a conversation. Like an example, recently I was at a party, we were playing a game and something about race came up, and then they were pointing out the fact that I was white, and then my friend said, no, she's Asian, and they started laughing, and they were like, they really just were like, didn't believe that. She had to be like, no, she's Asian, and they were like, wait, really? And that happens to me, or that type of interaction happens to me almost all the time. I was in a group way back when I was living by myself and I was kind of isolated in a city, and I really just wanted to find a group to kind of identify with and talk about my sexuality and different topics, and just have like a connection with some people that were like me. So I found a group through a college that held 2 groups for LGBT people. One was inclusive to people of color and the other one wasn't. And I took a chance, I guess, in stepping into that space and wanting to be in that space, so I requested that. And I could already feel from day one the looks and the vibes from people just kind of not welcoming me there. I almost felt scared. I felt nervous being there. I kind of felt like I did something wrong in doing that. And I don't know if that's wrong, but for me, it's like I didn't want to be in a group that was going to be mainly white people. Because for me, this is my life. This is experiences in my life growing up, this has always been me. And I just naturally fit in with people that express culture, contain culture, and are of different ethnicities, rather than most groups, which are usually 9 times out of 10 white dominant. So it's just like, I try to sign up for things that I know I will fit better in and be more comfortable in. And then after, I think it was session 3 coming up, they literally sent me an email and they said like, yeah, you can't come no more. Like, people are talking about it, they think it's problematic, and they just literally kicked me out of the group. I mean, I get it, I guess. And I feel like maybe I stepped out of a boundary. I don't know. It's just like a weird place to be in all the time. And it's like, I honestly feel like if you're somebody who is white in passing and knows your privileges, it's equally important to know how to be an ally and how to be someone who is non-problematic. And I feel like it should be common sense for a lot of us. All I really wanted to express in this video is that people like me exist. People like me can exist. People who walk into this world and can communicate and be around other people that aren't always of their same complexion. Like, you can just be very well-rounded. You can get along with everyone and anyone. I don't really have any enemies in my life, and I try to just remain very humble, very grounded, and just overall just be not a problematic person in any way. And it really ties into things like sexuality, where being a visible lesbian is something that is kind of very similar. It also opens those uncomfortable conversations about misgendering somebody, as opposed to, you never know what somebody's race really is. Like, it becomes like a big deal for some people where they have to break the whole conversation and talk about it for a while. And even in those moments, it almost feels forced sometimes. It feels like I have to convince them that this is real, like by proving where my mom is from, or when she got here, or how full she is. And then it almost feels weird after I tell somebody. And if it's somebody who is of full visible race, I feel like they're judging as well, because they're like, well, you're white in passing, so it doesn't really count. Or if somebody's white looking at me, they might instantly place Asian stereotypes onto me. And it's just like, you can't win from any end at all. All I know is that when I went back to Japan and I met my ancestors for the first time, and I sat down with them, and my mom was filling in the family tree, and my grandma was translating everything, and it was just a very serene moment. It was literally in a little old house where my 90-year-old ancestor lives, and we had to take our shoes off and everything. It's very small. We had a whole prayer table where they had to ring the gong and everything. I mean, like, this is a part of me, you know what I'm saying? And it doesn't feel real sometimes based on my experience living in this world. And what's even crazier is about being in Japan, I never had a problem with my race or my identity. I really just never had a problem with anybody misgendering me or giving me a certain look. And I think I was worried about that the most going over there, and I had no problems. So I 100% believe that America is one of the bigger reasons why a lot of us have identity issues when it comes to culture and what is valid enough. All I know is that I've embraced this recently much harder than normal, because it's dope as fuck. I should love that I have multiple ethnicities from both sides. I get to be a being in this world that has such a unique identity that starts conversations, that makes people uncomfortable, and that makes people question things. So I was never really trying to complain in this video at all, if that seemed that way. I was really just trying to make a point that, like, this type of person exists in this world, regardless of what we look like or not. And I think if you're a person like this, it's very important that you learn where you're from, know your history, know your roots, and choose wisely how you embrace certain things and how you present yourself. There's people like me, but they're problematic because they try too hard or they're doing too much. There's always a limit to how much you should do, especially if you have certain privileges based on what you look like. So I know my place, I know my lane, but I also know who I am. I love y'all. Here's for all my invisibly biracial people out there. This one's for you, man. I had to do something for us, and amidst all this craziness, hope I made y'all laugh and relate a little bit. Till next time, peace.